So
Oh,
I'm on the air with Jeff Hake from the Land Connection, and today we're going to review some spreadsheets that I made for farmers to help them plan for the year ahead. Um, Jeff is going to help me take care of things on the back end and be organizing questions that you can ask with the app on the side. And feel free to ask them as they come to you, and I'll try and answer them as I see them. But I'm going to start with a really quick overview of what Google Drive is, in case some of you are not familiar with it. Some basics about what it is and how to use it.
hey
And
Todd, time out for a second. I'm still on the same. Oh, okay. Sorry. I think the option just became clear to me. Okay, now I see. Okay, I'm on board. Sorry, Cara.
all right. All right. So then I'll go into the spreadsheet specifically and explain how I have it all organized, and um, hopefully you'll have some questions about that. I'd love to get your feedback about what you like, what you don't like. Be candid, and we'll take it from there. So to get started, let me share my screen with you so you can see what I'm talking about as I'm talking about it. Here you should be able to see my Google Drive. And Google Drive, I think the easiest way to explain it is very similar to the sort of filing system that you probably have on a computer, on the computer that you're using to watch this right now. Except the difference is that these files are all contained in the cloud. So here we have my drive and then all of the different files that I have. And inside these files are documents and more files. So today we'll be looking at some spreadsheets that I've made, and those are stored here. You can also create documents, presentations, just like PowerPoint. You can create forms, which I'll address a bit later, and even simple drawings. So that is how you would need to use these spreadsheets if you decide to use them. They can be downloaded into Excel, but they're not going to work the same way there because the compatibility is not exact. So it is important to note that you'll need to use these spreadsheets that I've made in Google Drive. Now, to get started, we'll take a look at this crop plan that I've made and shared with Jeff, who's on the call with us. Now, Jeff is in central Illinois, but I have a zip code here of the Northeast because I was looking to see if there's anywhere in the United States that still has not come out of the last spring frost. And it looks like this zip code has 1 day remaining. But the concept for this crop plan was to make it super simple to enter data and also really easy to change it. And I didn't want it to be overbearing. So I figured the first thing that you need to know is when the season starts. And I was able to basically pull data from almanac.com by simply asking people to enter their zip code. So if we change this to be something local to Chicago, where I am, or the suburbs, 60126, you can see that that's going to change the frost dates. So the last spring frost here has already passed, and there's 153 days until the first fall frost. And if you want to look at that data as it's pulled in directly, you can click on the frost dates sheet, and you can see that it's coming from the Chicago O'Hare Airport climate station. And you can see these dates as listed are 50% probability. So it's important to note as well that it's not a guaranteed chance that the last frost has passed. And the growing season in total is 170 days. So going back to the input and display sheet, after you've entered your zip code and you understand when the start and end of your season is, you can start to enter data. Now, I've already entered an example plan here, but if you were to download a copy as suggested in cell A1 and make this your own, you could just go ahead and highlight all of this and delete it. Do not delete the estimated harvest. That's an equation, but you can delete everything else here, which is just entered by the user, and it's as easy as that. I'm going to undo that, but I just wanted to show you what will happen if you delete it. And if you press Control-Z or Command-Z, that's one way you can undo things if you make a mistake while playing with your spreadsheet. So the concept that I have here for a farm is farms have fields, fields have beds, and beds have crops. So I want you to keep that in mind as we're sort of going through this spreadsheet. And I imagine most farms probably think about their farm geographically when making their crop plan, starting with one bed and kind of going through the farm that way. So I wanted to make it really easy to enter the bed that they're thinking about and then what they want to plant in it and when they want to plant it. So you can see here that we have the bed, the plant type, seed date, meaning the day that you start your seeds, the transplant date, if they're being transplanted, and then that calculates the estimated harvest. So in this example, what I'm going to do first is apply a filter, which makes this really easy to sort. So I'm just going to highlight everything, starting with the row header, and I'm going to press the filter button here. So you press that, and you can see these little boxes with arrows appear, and that means that you can now sort and filter this data. So to show you how this is all organized, first thing I'm going to do is sort the beds A to Z. And you can see that the data is going to shift around, and now everything is lined up alphabetically in the beds. And the beds I have organized here in a very simple fashion. I just thought about a farm with 4 fields and 4 beds in each field. So we have northeast 1, 2, 3, 4, northwest 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And the example here we have in the northeast bed radishes that are being planted first. Those are being harvested, and then chard is going in the ground after that. And you can see that represented graphically here on the right with these bars. So first the radishes, after the radishes come out, then we have the chard that goes in. And if you wanted to just look at, let's say, the beds on the south side of the farm, you could clear all and just select those beds on the south side of the farm. Click OK, and now your section is limited to just those beds on the south side. Going to select all again. OK, so you're looking at the whole farm, and now we can sort everything by another heading. So first we did the beds. Let's assume that you just entered all this data bed by bed, and now you have it laid out that way. But now you want it organized in a fashion that's really easy to understand when you need to start your seeds. So you can go to seed date and sort there, A to Z. I know it's numbers, but you can think of it more so ascending or descending instead of literally A to Z. So if you click A to Z, now the data is going to reshift, and you have everything lined up exactly in the order you need to start your seeds for the season. So you have broccoli, kale, collard, broccoli again, and it's all lined up here on the right so you can see very easily when you need to start seeds. And you may be wondering why the blue bars and the orange. That is because if you are starting something in a greenhouse or indoors, whatever the case may be, that's going to be represented by the blue bar. The blue bar is the time spent in a greenhouse, for example, and then the orange is the start of its time outside. So here the broccoli started indoors and then transplanted outdoors, whereas radishes are direct seeded, so those are just put in the ground immediately and spend no time in a greenhouse. Now, let's say that you have everything laid out and you want to first understand, you want to sort of check your work. As a farmer, it's very important that you have a consistent stream of revenue coming in throughout the season. So you want to make sure there aren't any gaps in your harvest schedule, ideally. So you can sort the estimated harvest A to Z, and now you have an idea of when things are going to be coming into season throughout the whole year. And so you can see if there's a gap somewhere, you might want to shift around your plantings to fill that gap. And again, I wanted to organize it this way so it would be really easy to enter data, change data, and quickly look for insights. However, I'm certainly biased, so again, if you have ideas how this can be better, I'm very happy to have them. Just let me know. Ask questions, leave comments, whatever the case may be. And all this data for the equations is not being pulled out of thin air. There's a plant database. So the plant database here, you can see, has its own page. And everything is lined up by plant type. And the maturity, the days to maturity, are used to calculate the estimated harvest. And those are right here. These were all pulled off the web from various sources. I know that there's obviously dozens, hundreds, even thousands of different varieties that exist for some plants, and they all have different times to maturity, and there are environmental factors that will affect those. But these numbers are very easy to change. If you want to change them, you can just go ahead and do that. If you have a type of broccoli that's particularly quick to mature, you can change that to 95 days, press enter, and you can see in the input and display the broccoli has now changed to be 20 days earlier in its maturation. So this is something that I'd like to continue to improve upon and add more varieties. As you can see, there are lots of data points that I would love to have and add to make this more robust. But as of right now, I think it's a good tool to help farmers get started. And hopefully, with their feedback, I can make this better. I'm going to hide this again. So these other columns that you see here, these all feed into the next sheet that I want to show you. And this one is still very much in development, but this I see as being the next step in figuring out what your farm plan is for the season. So on the estimated revenue page, you can see that it's pulling in all the same data from the crop plan, so you don't need to re-enter any of that. But now it's asking you to enter information about how much was planted. So for the area planted, it assumes square feet. So the square feet can be entered here. If you have beds that are 500 feet, for example, you can enter that and you can see how the pounds produced will change. And if you want to fill that down, if you have equally sized beds across your whole farm, you can easily do that. And you can see that all the numbers will change accordingly. The area, in coordination with the expectation for a low, medium, or high yield, is what helps you calculate the pounds produced. And then the price that you enter for these various products on the plant database page is what calculates the revenue. So you can see that if you change here from a medium yield to a low yield, again, the numbers will change. And this is probably also oversimplified, but again, I hope it's a useful tool to help farmers get started, especially beginning farmers. So if you're just getting started, you might have a low yield or a medium yield, but if you've been doing it for years and you really understand your land and how to take full advantage of it, then you will probably be getting a high yield, and that changes the numbers dramatically. And again, these are assumptions, and those assumptions can be changed very easily in the plant database. And here, I forgot to mention, the type of sale also affects the price, and these are both listed in the plant database. R is for retail, W is for wholesale, and O is for other, but that can be changed as well. So with all that being said, there's a lot of question marks here. I'm hoping that they will fuel a conversation about what can be done with spreadsheets and what sort of data is actually useful to farms. So please leave comments, questions. I'd be happy to answer them now or in the future. And you're welcome to reach out to me directly by sending me an email. You can reach me at Todd, T-O-D-D, at everylastmorsel.com. And I'm happy to have a conversation about this. I've obviously invested a lot of time. I think it's fun, and hopefully I've produced something of value that you can use in the coming season ahead. I'm going to go back here. I don't see any questions, and I also don't see Jeff anymore, so I'm guessing he must have gotten booted off. But like I said, thank you for joining me. If you have questions, feel free to leave them, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. Thanks.